Yeah, this sucks ass. Hey guys, Todd the Cheap Drums Guy. So, we got about 1.5 feet of snow overnight. Our first significant snowfall that's probably going to hang around for a while. Check this out. Yeah, no, thank you. And it was funny at the road over here. There's a stop sign right up here on our road, and cars have a hell of a time coming to a complete stop and then going past that. But yet, my Subaru, best car in the winter, I swear to God. And we watched a Jeep try to make that hill, just that little slight hill, about a dozen times. And then finally he just decided to turn around and go back the other way and come out on the highway. But luckily for me, I didn't have to break out my snowblower because my wife last year bought me that huge snow scoop. And I'm telling you, I can clear a driveway faster than my Husqvarna, which is pretty cool. But anyways, so last night, being the cool guy that I'm in, super important, big shot on YouTube now. I was watching videos on reducing snaring and all that kind of stuff on TV, and playing with the dogs at the same time. And so I wasn't really kind of paying attention until this German gentleman showed up and went through on his tuning. And unfortunately, I was playing with the dogs at the same time. When you commit to playing with the dogs when they got their slipper, you got to commit, or they'll just bug the crap out of you. And so I half listened to it, and there was a point in there where I took a picture of what he was doing and then continued on playing with the dogs. But let me set my phone down real quick and point it towards the drums, and I'll go over what he talked about. So just give me 1 second here. My high-tech methods here. And reduce. See them special effects, baby? That's like a Hollywood production. Yeah. This is about as redneck as you can get. But anyways, again, I couldn't remember who the gentleman was, and it was a strange comedy of errors. There was a glitch in the cable last night, and so I lost cable for the TV for like a fraction of a second, so I had to reboot everything on the TV. But luckily, I retained the picture that I took, and he was tuning a 10-lug snare drum. I don't have any 10-lug snare drums. All 4 of mine are all 8-lug. But I tried to translate it as best as I could onto an 8. And what he was doing, he took his resonant side head, the snare side head, and detuned it all the way to finger tight. Then on each of the lugs, he used 2 drum keys, of course, and did 2 complete turns. 2 complete turns on all the tension rods, which any of you who ever tuned a snare drum resonant side head, I mean, that's really tight. That's tabletop tight. That's super tight. And I'm like, okay, well, he's not impressing me yet. But then he came to the batter side head, and this was really interesting. He took all the lugs down to finger tight, and then on every single one with 2 drum keys, he 1 complete turn. And he goes, that's your bass. This is where we start. And again, he was using a 10 lug, and I had to translate this into an 8. But this is what he came up, this is what he did. Now, on my 8, the top one, he did 1 complete full turn. 1 more. So it was actually 2 turns, full turns on that top lug. And then the lugs on either side, he did a half a turn. These, he started off with half a turn. These were minus half a turn, and then the bottom was pretty loose. But the bottom played a significant part in all this. Now, these, it's marked for tone. So what he did, he turned the snares off, and he found a spot where he liked it on the tone, and he kept it there. And there was a couple little adjustments when he started playing it, and he showed you on his video that he could control the sound of the snare going from a fat sound to a sharper sound where the head was very sensitive, where you could play lighter, like if in a jazz setting, so you can get some really good response from the snares beneath. And he would just tune up that bottom head or the bottom tension rod, and he would play just a little bit with these. But for the most part, he didn't touch any of these. It was just the bottom one and the ones off to either side of it. And of course, that was a 10 lug, and this is laid out best as I could translate for an 8. And it was pretty interesting. And so I came down this morning and I took all the crap off my snare drum that I had, the tape on the inside from bearing edges across. Uh, any of the stuff I had on the drum that I tried to control the ring, I removed. And when I tried it this way. And this is what I've got out of it. And I got moon gels, okay. And just by playing with this lug and these 3, this is without, is this the right one? No, this is, it's a good thing I looked first, but that's a different one I got to show you here in a minute. Something else I did, an experiment. My beautiful XPK, you're welcome. But this is what I came up, and that little dot I have here, just the bottom and the top, where I'm using for the bottom and the top. But this is what I came up with, just using his tuning technique. And I still have to kind of use a moon gel with it because there's still a little XF sub ring. But this is what I came up with so far. Now all he did was played with those bottom 3. Smurf boogers. And then I just tried it with the moon gels. I like it. All professionals hit all the cymbals all the time by mistake. Turned out to a pretty interesting sound, and then it's kind of neat. I mean, I'm not saying this is the way to do it. I'm just saying this is the way he was playing with it, and his snare drum. Then again, his snare drum probably costs $600 more than this, and I don't have my resonant side head cranked up that hard because this is the original resonant head on this, and I really don't know how old it is. I mean, if it's the original, it's 30 years old, and so I don't want to, whoops, break the head. So, but it's kind of interesting. And this morning, as I've been doing this, I was able to achieve a whole range of different sounds out of it just using these 3 and adjusting it. Granted, it's not perfect what you're hearing right now because I've kind of dinked around with it quite a bit. And so I don't know exactly where the tension, the lugs are actually tuned at. But if I turn the snare off, take the moon gels off, and go around tap, 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 even though they're guaranteed not the same, it all kind of sounds the same. There's really not much difference in pitch, which is very odd. I don't know, maybe catching some fumes from maybe the furnace is burning off some gas, and I'm getting the fumes from it and getting whacked and getting stoned from that. But anyways, I want to show you another little interesting thing that I was messing around with last night. God, that thing, I absolutely love this. It's such a beautiful drum. And I think today I'm going to take that head off it and try that SD heavyweight Premier. But this is my Premier Olympic. Again, you're welcome. And this one, I wanted to try something that I was toying, I had an idea was floating around the back of my head, and I was toying with that. Now, there's a second idea I have that I want to try later on today too, because really don't want to go out and do anything in this kind of weather. Not that it's difficult. My little Subaru gets around better than any four-wheel drive in town. And but I mentioned swim noodles in the past. Those little tubular pieces of foam that kids use down in the water and playing around with. And I thought, well, what would happen if I cut one of those up and put it inside the shell, around in the circumference, both on laying up against the resonant head and laying up against the batter head. The batter head, of course, knowing right offhand what's going to happen, it's just going to be like just like one of the snare drum rings that you put on. But I thought, oh, see, there it is. So I took this all apart last night, and I cut it to fit in there to see what kind of sound I would get. And I don't have any tape and all that kind of stuff on there, and without any moon gels. But I'll show you the sound that I came up with, which is pretty cool. I thought, just as an experiment. That's a really nice sound, and it's got no muffling on it. I do have the muffler just barely touching the head, the built-in muffler on it, just barely touching the head, but that's almost like a processed sound. I mean, it sounds really good to my ear. Then again, you're listening to it via Apple 13 or whatever the hell that thing is. But that's pretty interesting. And there's another one that I want to try tonight, is that when I got my XPK in the other day in that DW snare box, teasing me they were, I retained the bubble wrap, because if I do sell my other drum kit, I'm going to use it to, wrap it up. But, I'm thinking, well, what would it sound like if I took the batter head off and stuffed it with bubble wrap in there? Would that reduce the tone and all this kind of stuff? And it'd just be kind of interesting to see what it would do. And speaking of the little foam, oh, that's not in that, it's in this one. Swim noodle, I got it in the snare, just playing with the sounds, and which is a different sound. It's kind of cool. I have a problem with these 16-inch toms, the floor toms, because they are kind of difficult to tame at times. I mean, my poplar ones, they're all right. I can get a real nice spatty sound, not much overtone to it. But the birch one here, the Premier, she can be kind of testy. And so I was thinking, what would happen if I took one of the swim noodles and put it around the circumference of that, maybe up against the resonant head, to see what it would do, so see what kind of sound I would get. And if you put it in there kind of tight and force and cut it in such a fashion where you force it together, it'll hold it in place and won't move around. I think it would make for an interesting sound. If not, it'd give you something to do for an hour or so. And in this kind of weather, like I said, you don't want to go out and drive. Although I could take my Subaru and drive around town and laugh at all the goobers and their big high-speed pickup trucks, four-wheel drive pickup trucks that are in the ditches and the trees, because they go off the road all the time, and the women who seem to drive these huge SUVs too fast and tailgate you all the time. Yeah, when I went to work yesterday, driving my truck weighs 60,000 pounds, so I don't have a problem on the road sticking to it, but I'm passing wreck after wreck. Every first big snow of the season, you get wrecks everywhere, and it's always the pickup trucks. These guys in their big pickup trucks, and women in these big SUVs their husbands buy them. They're always the ones in the ditches, and always the ones who run off the road into the trees. But yet, you see an old lady driving her Subaru right by them. I'll tell you, those are unbeatable cars in the winter. But anyways, I just wanted to show you what I was tinkering with this Saturday morning, and maybe later on I'll try that bubble wrap thing. I don't really have that big of high hopes to see what it would sound like. I mean, if you're a professional, would you consider something like that? Well, probably not, because you got a reputation and all that, and you don't want to be some like stupid no-name cheap drums guy. But I'm going to want to do I'm going to do the test that nobody else wants to do and check them out just because, entertainment value, I guess. But I'm going to try that out tonight. See what I get out of that. And I haven't told a story in a long time, so maybe I'll uh, break out another story from my memory. Hopefully, it won't trigger my PTSD too much. But anyways, I'm Todd, the cheap drums guy, and I've got nothing better to do. Have a good day.